Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm Aaron Mate, sitting in for Jimmy here with America's comedian Kurt Metzger. And when we last saw AOC on the Jimmy Dore Show, she was being protested by anti-war constituents who were protesting her for funneling billions of dollars into the military-industrial complex to fund a disastrous proxy war in Ukraine. Well, AOC's found some friendlier terrain. She went on Pod Save America. That is a show hosted by three former staffers of the Obama administration who really want Obama to think they're cool. And I've been on a long time quest to prove that with this podcast, I think.
I asked a friend of mine where she was getting her news from. She goes, I'm mostly Pod Save America.
Oh. Oh. All right. Well, hey, tweets their own. So here's Pod Save announcing AOC coming on. And let me just give a sense of who Pod Save America is. Okay, so Pod Save America is these former Obama administration officials, and they're sort of like the face of like the next generation of the Obama wing of the party, the Clinton Obama wing of the party. And on foreign policy, though, they sound exactly like neocons, because on foreign policy, that is essentially what the Obama Clinton policy is. So this is Ben Rhodes of Pod Save the World talking about Venezuela and what he wants to see happen there, including the ouster of the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro.
Again, I want him gone. Like, we should all be very clear. Like, this would be good. I do think there's a different way to go about this, which is to be tightening the noose, to be tightening sanctions, but to be very intensively trying to negotiate with the different factions inside of Venezuela. Frankly, talking to the Chinese and other countries about how to create some soft landing to a transitional government that can then hold an election.
So that's Ben Rhodes of Pod Save the World saying he wants to tighten the noose on Venezuela. This is the...
I didn't know they worked for Obama. Like, I thought they were maybe cleared out of the Biden White House for having smoked weed one time or something. And they formed a young guy coalition.
No, they're not that cool. They're not that cool. And so here is another host of Pod Save America, John Lovett. And here he is after Trump launched a coup in Venezuela to overthrow the government and to try to install a puppet Juan Guaido and stealing all of Venezuela's resources and imposing sanctions that were aimed at destroying the economy to make life even more difficult for average Venezuelan civilians. Pod Save America faced a dilemma because they found themselves agreeing with Donald Trump. And how do they work that out? Let's see.
One of the things that's very hard in this situation is that this is one of those rare times where Trump isn't getting everything totally wrong. This is a situation where just because Donald Trump has an ideological interest in proving something in Venezuela, and just because he has shown such deference to dictators around the world and has such authoritarian tendencies at home, doesn't mean that there aren't places where we align on trying to remove Maduro. It's just that we might have a slightly different approach.
Yeah, I mean, look.
So we have a slightly different approach.
God, they all talk like little Jen Psaki's people.
But that actually harks back to what we were talking about earlier, where when congressional progressives retracted their letter calling on Biden to negotiate with Russia to end the Ukraine proxy war, one of the reasons that Pramila Jayapal, the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, cited is that they didn't want to make it look as if they're aligning with Republicans who have been talking about maybe cutting funding for Ukraine. Well, Pod Save America has no problem aligning with Trump if it entails overthrowing a sovereign government and imposing crippling sanctions on its civilians. Then they're cool
the guy going, I want him gone. I prayed a pod too.
So here is David Sirota, friend of the show, who notes that here is AOC going on a top neoliberal podcast while ignoring all the progressive outlets. He says this: I think it's really something that elected left leaders will eagerly be interviewed by corporate Democrat hosts who created the neoliberalism that destroyed the left, but rarely ever accept interview requests from actual left outlets that might ask real questions, such as, why are you voting with Lindsey Graham and Liz Cheney to fund the Ukraine proxy war?
I think you're yelling over a deaf person right now, and you need to lower your voice.
Here is Ben Rhodes of
you make the right.
Here is Ben Rhodes of Pod Save the World, and talking about what's going on with the congressional progressives withdrawing their letter calling for diplomacy in Ukraine.
You make the right point that what Biden's saying is, I won't negotiate around the settlement that Ukraine has to accept without them. That doesn't mean we don't have things to talk to the Russians about. It just means Biden's not going to sit there and say, well, maybe you can keep this part of Ukraine and not that part of Ukraine. That's not going to happen. But to your point, if you don't create any space for kind of debate in the center here around this policy, you know where all the concerns about the war are going to go? They're going to go to where Kevin McCarthy took it, right?
Totally.
Which is that like, hey, I'm getting uncomfortable here. There's nuclear threats. Let's cut off the Ukrainians, right?
It's a lot of money.
So, to some of you, like some of the Ukraine stands on Twitter or whatever, who like just, pile on this stuff, you might be creating the outcome you don't want, because by punishing anybody who says, let's have diplomacy, the only alternative to your position, is where Kevin McCarthy's going, which is like, hey, let's cut these, where Tucker Carlson is, basically.
Or where Elon Musk. I mean, there's clearly a void of people.
There's a void of
and like
discussion.
Elon Musk is filling it, or that guy David Sachs, some like idiot tech investor, right-wing goober is filling it. It's like, why don't we have the CPC, the Congress, the progressive in the House fill it, or at least try.
Well, that would be a very healthy place to fill it.
So what they're saying there, to translate that from neoliberal speak, is that they're upset that basically there's no one on the left right now calling for diplomacy and an end to the war. And they're worried that the right or the libertarians are going to fill it. And what they're saying is we need someone to at least pretend as if we want peace in Ukraine, or else Kevin McCarthy and the right are going to occupy that space.
How are you like this young and that repulsive? Like they're repulsive at like a 12th grade level above where they should be for their age. I used to play DC, like, when I guess hipsters, or I don't know if they're still a thing, but at the height of hipsters, when I play in DC, they weren't like hipsters. They were like these House of Cards larva kind of people. And they all have that, you see the arrogance of this. Anyway, sorry.
Hey, we're going to see you in Miami, West Palm Beach, Denver, Palm Springs, Austin, Burbank. That's right, the Saturday after Thanksgiving here in Burbank, and lots of dates in Los Angeles in December. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all our tickets, and join our premium program when you go there too.